Welcome back to Black Renaissance. Please welcome Professor and Department Chair of American Indian Studies at San Francisco State University and author of Indian Blood, HIV and Colonial Trauma in San Francisco's Two-Spirit Community, Dr. Andrew Jolivette.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Welcome.
Very good. Great to be here.
So good to have you here today and in the midst of some current shifts that are happening at San Francisco State right now, particularly in their ethnic studies department. And you can sort of tell us a little bit about that. Things are changing.
Yeah, I mean, we are the world's only college of ethnic studies. And in February, we learned that we might see a 40%, nearly 50% reduction in our operational budget. There's been a lot of coverage in the media and the universities kind of suggesting that we're overspending. It's the sort of typical, it's the people of color, it's their fault, when actually we recently learned from an independent auditor that the university actually does not have a structural deficit. They actually have a structural surplus. So it's a case of priorities in terms of funding, I think, is what's going on right now for our college.
Talk to me about whether that is overall a challenge that colleges and universities are seeing nationwide, particularly when it comes to ethnic studies.
Yes, no, absolutely. I think that there's this sort of undervaluing, right, that why do we need this, particularly since the election of President Obama. We've seen sort of a pushback against ethnic studies programs, whether it's been in Arizona or Texas. Right now, Stanford University is actually waging their own fight around ethnic studies. We've seen stuff down in San Diego. The University of Washington, I'll be going to a conference at the University of Washington on May 6th, where different colleges from around the country are gathering for a conference to actually talk about the status of ethnic studies and why we're seeing all these cuts. I think there's a really big fear out there since President Obama was elected that we are, as people of color, as African Americans, taking over, right? Things when we also see things in the news that are actually showing us the counter of that, right? From Mario Woods and other violent crimes that are happening in our communities, gentrification right here in San Francisco.
Yeah, we've certainly seen many stories in the media that are sort of highlighting and underscoring the importance of having some of those programs accessible and available. What is happening at San Francisco State right now? What is your department doing to try and preserve ethnic studies, that department as you know it?
Sure. We've really been working and organizing with the students to really send a message to our university president and our provost that in our mission, it says that we support social justice, but a lot of universities, even ours, right, where I think nationally we have this reputation of being the social justice institution, that it can't just be, you know, rhetoric or lip service, that we actually have to put resources and really advance ethnic studies so that it can grow. We haven't done any hiring. We've, over the last 10 years, seen a 17% reduction already in our budget. And so we're really hoping that through some meetings that we're planning a shared governance meeting in the next 2 to 3 weeks with members of the campus community. We've had a lot of support, including from folks like the public defender, Jeff Adachi of San Francisco, who came and spoke. Davey D, who's a lecturer at San Francisco State, has been there as well. So,
yeah. Great guys I've worked with as well.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit, we've got a couple minutes left here. Sure. Talk to me about Indian Blood. Very important book, a very serious subject matter there.
Yeah, Indian Blood comes out of really trying to understand, particularly, although the focus is on mixed-race Native Americans, it's also important for mixed-race populations, including people of African descent, some of whom are included in the study, but really looking at risk for HIV, or what are the factors, right? What are the ways in which culture, right, being impacted by outside influences is continuing to cause trauma in our community. So Indian Blood is really a book. I talk about this concept, radical love, in the book that's really central to it. And the idea of radical love essentially is that until we can be vulnerable with other people who share similar traumas, we can't get over the things that have happened to us in the past. Kind of some similar arguments to Joy DeGruy's book, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. I talk about post-traumatic invasion syndrome and the impact that colonization had on indigenous people, First Nations people, and how that's continuing generation after generation to produce more traumas that exacerbate HIV transmission in indigenous communities and mixed blood communities.
Absolutely. I look forward to reading this book, adding it to my long list of books I do have to read.
Yeah.
It's been out for some time, but make sure you take a look at that one. Thank you so much for coming on our program and talking to us about this today. For more information about the book or Andrew, you can log on to speakoutnow.org and search for Andrew Jolivette. That's speakoutnow.org. We'll be right back with more Black Renaissance.